What's happening, family? Dr. Joe here. Happy Sunday evening, and I hope each of you are well and blessed. Really excited because here's another edition, another episode of season 1, 2023 of our Village Chat series. Want to welcome all of you guys here who are tuning in. There are many different groups of you guys. Some of you are in the process as participants. Some of you guys are leaders. Some of you are former graduates. Some of you are friends, associates of other graduates. Regardless of what part or what bucket you reside in, we are glad that you are here. We're excited. I just want you guys to know that we're having some amazing results. People are healing themselves. People are recapturing their health, their wellness, their mind, their happiness. People are lowering their hypertension. People are reversing diabetes. People are improving their marriages, their relationships with other people, their overall sense of well-being are all being positively impacted. And it's happening right here in our village, and we're so excited about that. I'm Dr. Joe. I'm the author and founder of the world's greatest transformational process, 40 Days with Dr. Joe, 40-Day Turn Up, as well as the Journey 3.0 process. I represent and we represent here. This is a holistic transformative process of the mind, body, and the spirit. This has been a ministerial outreach that has been done in the community, coming out of a church that I have been blessed to pastor, Salem Bible Church in the Atlanta area, some 10 years ago. We've helped out thousands of people come through this process, and it looks like we're just getting started. There's some great things in the horizon for this organization that we have, and we're excited to see what God is doing and what God is going to continue to do. It's our hope that we continue to combat a lot of negativity through holistic transformation to help people get on the road of becoming their best possible selves. All right, that is awesome. Now, what's amazing about this particular process is we have what's called Village Chat. Village Chat is what you're tuning in on tonight. Village Chat gives us the opportunity to present real life participants who are in the process. Some of them are coaches, some of them are leaders, some of them are upper leaders, some of them are participants. So it's a good mix, and we like to present our participants and our leaders and our coaches to get a perspective and just to hear their story. One thing that combines all of us and the way that we kind of are able to relate is the human experience. The human experience is a powerful one, and it transcends race, it transcends gender, it transcends socioeconomic background, sexual orientation. There's something about the story of people that resonates within the hearts of people, and that's what we like to spotlight. So I'm excited about my guest on this evening, and she is Miss Heidi Martin, and I want to introduce to some and present to others my guest for this evening, Miss Heidi Martin. Heidi, how you doing?
I'm good, Dr. Joe. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You look great. You sound great. How you feeling on this beautiful Sunday evening?
I'm nervous, but I'm feeling awesome. I have
Okay.
recently hit the 20-pound club, so
Awesome. How do you feel about that?
I'm flying high. I'm shocked. But it goes back to what you've said in the beginning. Like, you are going to determine your path. What you put in is what you're going to get out. So I'm all in. Been all in since day one. Haven't cheated, and now I'm beyond 20 pounds. So I'm
Look
thankful.
at you. What a leading the way. Way to go, Heidi. That is awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for being my guest. I'm excited to get to know you. And let's just start at ground zero. Tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, where you live, and what you do.
Okay, so again, my name is Heidi Martin. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is way up north. And I currently reside in the Austin, Texas area. I am a mom of an adult child. My son's 34. I'm a Gigi to two grandsons. I am a retired Army veteran, served 20 years in the Army, combat veteran. And I am a certified pastry chef, but now we're rethinking that due to the 40-day turn up.
Okay. What a great story.
Yeah, and I currently work in the, sorry, Dr. Joe, I forgot. I currently work at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I help veterans get jobs or assist them getting jobs within the VA or other federal agencies.
Well, let me first of all start by saying we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Men and women who have sacrificed as you and many others are so appreciated and loved. You guys are great heroes. So I want to thank you for that. What a great story that you have. And I want to give a big shout out to all of our other veterans as well as our active military men and women. We thank you guys for the sacrifices that you make, because without you, this thing called freedom would not exist. So let's start off with that. So, wow, you're a mom. You're a mom of 2 grandchildren, you say?
Yeah, I'm a
Okay,
Gigi.
2 grand. Okay, all right, great. They call you Gigi. That's cute. All right, and you're from you live in Austin, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. So
And,
go ahead.
and I grew up in Erie,
In Erie,
Pennsylvania.
Erie,
So they have way too much snow up there. So I've been around the world and back with the military, and so I chose something nice and sunny. I don't like to deal with the snow.
that's great. Let's dive into military. What branch of did you serve in?
Army,
Okay,
huh, for those out there.
okay. All right, so take us, like a lot of people have absolutely no idea what military life is like. Take us back to what made you pursue the Army. Like, how did you get into it?
Okay, we'll give you the short version, the Cliff Notes version. So I
Okay.
graduated high school and I went to college. I wanted to be an interior designer. So left Erie, went to Pittsburgh, started interior design. And I actually used to model a long time ago, very long time ago, do cosmetics and things like that. And it was interesting that I got a compromising offer. And I was like, okay, I had to rethink some things.
Yeah.
And I was actually walking down the street, and this is 1986, and the recruiters used to stand outside and be like talking like kind of smack to you, saying you could never make it, you can never do this. And I think the recruiter actually planted a seed, because when I had more than one compromising position where I was like, no, I can't do this, I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to join the Army. And everyone was shocked because I was not that person. I was very boisterous back in the day. I was very like, I knew who I was, and you basically weren't going to tell me which avenue to go down. And my mom never believed me, because she didn't even take me to the bus station. She was like, you're lying. There's no way you join the Army. So I joined the Army. And to be honest, I loved it. I loved every aspect about the military. My first duty assignment was Karlsruhe, Germany. Been around the world. I served 20 years as a single mom. So I got divorced when my son was about a year old. So I did the rest of my 20 some years in the Army as a single mom, which was difficult, but it gave me the opportunity to serve my country, which I was very passionate about. It gave me the structure. And in the military, as a single mom, you have so much support around you from other military members, spouses, things like that. And you get such a great network. It's a stronghold. And also, no one is ever not a friend. So even on the street, I don't know you, you say you're in the military, cool, we're friends, right? It's a veteran pack, kind of like the 40-day turn up. We're all a pack, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's how I joined the military. I served 20 years, went to Iraq, did a combat tour, and came home. And thankfully I came home. So
Wow. What a great, beautiful story. Um, you just don't hear that every day. I mean, that's tough to be a single mom and to have made that great contribution to your country. But the blessing is that you're able to look back on it and you really enjoy it. It's like no regrets, which is awesome.
I
So,
like I like the structure that it gave me, and I like the feeling of commitment, being part of a team,
right.
and having one cause. Yes.
Well, talk to us. This is one of the great things why we do this, because everyone has a different story. So I know a lot of people who are in the military have struggles when they're transitioning out of the military back to civilian life. Can you speak to that? Like, is that truth to that? And if so, how did you handle the transition?
So that's 100% true because in the military, you wake up at 4:30 in the morning, or we always call it ODART 30 in the morning, because you go do physical training and then you get ready to shower, then you do your day. But your day is not 8 hours. Your day is basically when they tell you you can go home. So transitioning from military to civilian sector, it's very difficult because we're used to structure, we're used to being teammates, we're used to, if you go into the corporate world, it is not the same team environment, right? Where in the military, you're one team, one fight. You're going to go, right? And it doesn't matter. You always have somebody's back. In the corporate world, what I've learned, it's not so much like that. You're very rare if you can find someone that's going to be on the same team as you. In transitioning, they have a program called TAPS, and I'm not sure it gives us enough time for the military members to transition out. I don't think it gives us enough time to really wrap your head around it and, put things in place for employment and things like that. And so, me in my past experience as a military recruiter, both, non-commissioned officer, like the regular recruiter plus medical recruiter, I have a lot of skill sets. So the VA has asked me to come in and help transition the military members to civilian sector, because what we have a hard time doing is in the military, we have MOS codes, which is more like a job code. And we have a hard time transitioning those codes into civilian skill sets. So what I do is, I feel like a lot of people have told me I'm like the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, the golden ticket, because I've got like that golden key. I can tell you, also being an HR specialist, I can kind of guide them to, okay, this is what you can do. Here's different programs, here's internships. So I think we need more of that to help our military members, because I really don't think we give them a lot of time to prep to get into the military. They've been doing it, they know what to do, but we don't give them, they're not focused on the army because we're focused on fighting and things like that, or keeping the peace. We're not focused on the person after they get out. The VA does a good job, but I still think the military, all services, could do better with transitioning their members out.
Interesting. That's let me ask you this. How have I'm certain while during your tenure in the military, in the army, that you probably gained a lot of skills, a lot of abilities. Can you maybe speak to maybe some things that you can see how your military training has helped you in your post-military career?
Well, one skill set we all have, doesn't matter what branch of service you have, is organization.
Mhm.
So organization is one that goes across. I think for me, being that I've had the military also gives you the opportunity to change jobs. If you need to reenlist, you have these options. You can change positions or whatever. During my tenure, I actually had three positions. But when you go up in rank, I retired as a master sergeant. I was acting sergeant major in Iraq on a couple of occasions, and turned down the academy just because I didn't want to do any more time. But when you go up in the rank of the military, even if you're an E1, you have skill sets, organization, scheduling, things like that. And I don't think a lot of military members look at that. They just look at the job code, right? And then when you get up into the heavier ranks, you're definitely doing operational, like regional coordination, regional marketing, regional manager. You're up in the ranks. So correlating, and I think that's what makes our organization at the VA, we're able to transition what you've done and all your skill sets into what you can go into. There's another resource called ONET for anyone that's in there listening for the military, that also will take a job code and translate it into civilian skill sets. So that's another way that we can help them understand what their worth is. Because a lot of people think, oh, you've been in the military, you're not educated, you're not this. There's people in the military with PhDs. I mean, so and right now our military force is the most educated force that we've ever had. So for people to say that we're not educated and things like that is a lie.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Last question about that.
Okay.
Being a female in the military, can you speak to that? How is it? Is it I'm certain you've got had your own fair share of experiences, but bring us to light to maybe some of the things that you've experienced.
It was rough. We're not going to get it twisted. It was rough.
Mhm.
And the reason it's rough is because you're a female in a man's world, and it is a man's world. And you have to act accordingly, right? So, for example, I would never put any pictures of my son on my desk because men would look at you as a mother, not as a soldier. They would take they feel that women are the weaker sex due to the fact, that's kind of, the stereotype, right? Women are, but we add value to the military. As a woman in the military, have dealt with sexual harassment, assaults, mili- we'll just keep it real, military sexual traumas. I mean, it was a rough 20 some years, but in saying that, I think it made me more confident. Even though I went through the storms, I know God was with me. I know God was present, and I know He was with me when I went through the storms. But when I came out the storms, I was stronger. And I think that goes throughout all the branches, just because it is a male dominated service. I'm hoping it's better. But to be honest, I'm not so sure because now they have other things in place now to stop the things that the people have served have happened to.
Wow, wow. I'm certain by the comments that how your story is resonating, and that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
What a great story. I see why. Hey, I see why you're my guest. I mean, you got this awesome story. I could sit here for days. But we're not going to do that. All right. So,
You're
thank
very
you for telling
kind.
us about you. That is awesome. Let's kind of transition to the 4-day turn up. Tell us how you got to the 4-day turn up. What led you to it? Talk to us about that.
So I'm going to give a shout out to my girl. I call her Cheryl Benitez, but everybody knows her as Coach Benitez in this process. I met I met Cheryl when I was stationed in Augsburg, Germany between 1990 and 1993. I think it was more closer to 1990. We have stayed friends ever since. And she is my ride or die. She is that one friend that will be very honest with you. Love her to death. She's my girl. But she was going through the process. She didn't tell me much. She was just like, hey, I got all these meetings. I'm doing this. And she was very secretive. And I'm like, okay. And I said, and then finally she's like, I have a ticket and I think I would like you to attend. And I'm like, oh my God, attend what? And whatever Cheryl says, to be honest, I'm in, right? Like, cause I know she got my back. Like, she's not gonna send me down the road and be like, yeah, we're gonna set her up for failure. But she always has my back. She's always been there. She's like my big sister, but she really is one of my family, right? So she gave me the invite and she's like, now don't do your extra stuff because I know you. You're gonna start going way in front of Dr. Joe. Don't do that. And I'm like, okay. And it took me a lot. Like she knows I was struggling
Right.
to not like anticipate what it is that you were going to say. But yeah, she got me into the program, and I'm thankful for her. And I'm thankful for you and what you do for our village. It's been a wonderful process.
That is awesome. What a great story. So you got she gave you the invite, which is great. And then let me ask you something. A lot of people, Heidi, believe it or not, don't. I think a lot of people understand why we do it like we do. A lot of people don't. But do you feel? Do you think that you have a different attachment to the village, being that this person that you have so much respect for invited you over and against if you just registered? How does that feel? I've never asked anyone that live. How does it make you feel that you were invited over and against just,
I thought I felt I was special. I mean, I felt like because she at first she indicated she only had one ticket, and then she actually got two tickets,
right,
or two invites, right? But I
right,
felt like I was being invited into a secret club. I mean, I had no idea what I was getting into because I trusted her, right?
right.
She could have let me off the cliff. Who knows, right? But I trusted her, and I accepted the invite. So I think it's better if it's invitation only, because then you have some connective tissue or some connection to someone who's done it. Because let me tell you, when you messaged me, she was the first one to call, and I'm like, I think Dr. Joe's been hacked. I was like, I don't know why you reached out to me.
Yeah, she didn't think it was me.
I didn't think it, but she was like, why not you? And I was like,
Right.
okay.
Exactly.
But I think if you have someone that's been through the process, I think it's easier. Now, mind you, she's not my coach here. I have someone else, and I love all my people in my group. I do.
Well, let's talk about your talk. Let's go ahead and start right there. Talk about your group, your coach. Let's talk about that.
Well, my group is Sisters with Vision. Shout out to y'all. My coach is Cynthia Tall, and my leader is Stephanie Daffin. And currently, right now, I think what the stats were today, this week, we lost 34.8 pounds, and we're at a total weight loss of 172.7 pounds. I mean, we're like
Wow.
the person. I mean,
Oh,
that's crazy.
still in the game, man. That
We're
is
doing great, and we've not lost anyone, Dr. Joe. We've all stayed. It's the same
wow.
team. Yeah.
Started together, and we're almost there.
Yep. We're finishing together. We're committed.
How does it feel to work on yourself as you are within the context of a group?
I love it because I feel like I am back. This sounds a little crazy, but I feel like I'm back in the military with my team.
Yeah.
Because we always have teams in the military. So I feel like they're my team and they're going to be my friends after this is over, because this is just the beginning. This is a change of lifestyle. This is not like some 40 days and then we're done. That's not how this is working. I mean, they're my sisters now and they're going to be my sisters after.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Well, shout out to your group. Shout out to your amazing coach. What a great, great story. So, um, let's kind of rewind a bit back to before we started the process. When you started on March the 6th, did you feel like you were ready?
I did. I did. And I think it was all because of the pre-work, to be honest. I think the way you process everything and the way you're methodical on how you do things, I think it was your first pre-work session that got me like just hooked, because there was a couple things that you mentioned that I wrote down.
Mhm.
I do take my notes, but there was a couple of things that stood out. And I have it here. Do you want me to read it to you?
Please, would love to.
Now, I don't know if it's your words verbatim, so just this is what I wrote.
Paraphrase me. Go ahead.
Okay, it says, you were talking about the voices in my head. And it said, who and what are the voices? And the one that stuck with me is, they are shattered shards of my soul that are designed to keep me where I was at the moment they were created.
Yeah.
So with that like touched me because of the things I briefly shared, right? That I've been set into a place and time where I have no problem taking care of everybody else. I have no problem being a highly professional woman, but me as Heidi sometimes struggle with that 8-track in my head. For those who don't know what an 8-track, cassette, DVD, whatever. But I call it my 8-track, and the voices in my head have really, really been loud since I've left the military, because I was always busy. And then, when you're in your quiet space, it seems like that's when the voices come out. So that was day one, I think. And since then, I've been seriously working on, like you say, it's mind, body, spirit. And I think what you have in your head and what you have in your spirit really affects, the outcome. So
That's great that you bring that up, because a lot of people forget that I was once there. And a lot of these, people say, well, this is great. How do you know this? And I tell them, because I know what it felt like. And through the gifts that God has given me in communication, I've been able to capture my thoughts and be able to re-articulate it to you guys. And people have to really understand, Heidi, the connection between our daily habits and our interactions with food and things that we do and don't do, how it's so intricate to our emotional state, you know?
I
And
agree.
so it's great that you were that resonated within you, and that things like that help to prepare you to be successful.
I mean, there's many others, but I mean, that's
Yeah,
the one
that's good.
because listen, you talk and it's like E.F. Hutton. You listen,
Okay.
you write down notes and you're like, oh my, and after the session, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, he is so right. But you put in the work, you take your notes, like you say, take the notes because you can always go back to that,
Right.
when you're having a hard time, because you definitely have a lot of knowledge, Dr. Joe.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that it has been valuable to you, and that's great. Let's talk about physically. How have you changed? You're in the 20-pound club. That means you're doing great. Congratulations to you as well as to your entire group and all of you guys who are doing wonderful. But let's talk about some of the physical differences that you've noticed.
So one right off the bat, I'm probably going to share way too much. So I do suffer from PTSD, right?
Okay.
So PTSD in my sleep, it's bad at night for me because we used to get bombed a lot in Iraq. So I'm still
Right.
dealing with, getting bombed 20 or 30 times a day.
Mm.
So sleep for me, I've always been a light sleeper just because of what I've been through.
Right.
But with the adjustment, I mean, I was shocked. Like I slept like a baby, and I have a sleep number bed, and I used to be in the 30s and 40s. The highest number on a sleep number is 100, right?
Okay.
And I'd be in the 30s and 40s. Like I couldn't even get into the 50s, 60s. My sleep number scores have been in the 80s and 90s now. Like I sleep like a rock. Also, my body feels like it's better. I know you had a session about your waist when your body and your bowel movements and all that stuff. I was obviously putting so much waste into my body. Now I've seen adjustments with that to where it's not as frequent. But then I go back to your notes and I'm like, okay, this makes sense because I was putting all this junk in my body, and my body now feels like it's running better. It feels like like I'm down to the weight that I was in the military.
Wow.
So I'm more active. I have more energy, and I mean, and the sleep, to be honest, that is like the killer. Like, I mean, that good night's sleep every night is awesome. I wake up in the morning, I eat an hour before, but it seems like right now, last week I was tired, but I still pushed through it. I mean, I was tired. Like I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to eat. All I wanted to do was sleep. And I'm not sure why it happened in week 4. But I went through it and I have more energy this week. Like I don't know what happened,
Wow.
but this week I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'm like ready to go.
I'm going to, you said something. I'm going to speak to that post interview because you said something. A lot of people have dealt with that, and I'm going to talk about that. That's great. I'm glad you brought it up. Um, do you mind if I don't want to ask you anything too sensitive about the PTSD, but is it okay if I ask you a question? Because
You're
I think,
Dr. Joe. Yes.
all right, okay, all right, great. Um, what we know that PTSD stands for post traumatic stress disorder, correct?
Hmm.
And yours revolves around sounds at night. What are there triggers that you notice? Can you kind of take us through what that feels like?
It's not just sounds. Um, sounds, okay. We'll do the sounds first, and then there's another reason why I also have it. But so when you're in a combat zone, and I was in Balad, Iraq, so we called it Mortaritaville, and we would get bombed like mortar 20, 30 times a day. But and so you're always on edge. It's like you're feeling like you're walking on eggshells. Like I can't explain it, but it also goes back to when I was in a very violent marriage, and it's domestic violence. So when you want to crouch in a corner, you don't want to move, you don't want to do anything. Um, so the sounds of the bombing, not knowing, what's going on. And then you also have a thing called a CRAM that shoots out missiles to blow up the mortars. So you have all this going on. And just think about you being in an environment for a year that, first of all, you don't know if you're coming home, right? And then you have all this stuff going on, especially when you sleep. So they choose, most of the time, they don't do it during the day. They will bomb you at night when you're at your most vulnerable state of mind. So when I came home, any light noise, I'd wake up. I would do my rounds around my house, which is kind of crazy. I'd go check if my doors are locked. I would, make sure everything's safe and whatever. But I would have to do it 3 or 4 times. You get in a pattern of just checking for your safety.
Mhm.
So noises for me are just, yeah, it was one thing, and now with this program, I think maybe diet, I don't know what's happening, but I know I can go to sleep now and sleep better. But also the reason for some of my PTSD is military sexual trauma, where
Mhm.
I fought for my life almost 4 times. Well, 4 times I fought for my life
Mhm.
dealing with sexual violence.
Mhm.
So and those always happened at night. So I have a couple things going on in my head. It's probably way too much for this,
Thank
but I mean, if you just being honest, so nighttime is not a good time for me. I'm better, right, with counseling and things like that, but it takes a long time. And then when you talked about that, I think what resonated is that first time you talked about, the voices or the shards of where you were at that time, right? So I think that's what stuck with me because in this program, I'm allowing certain things to kind of hold me back.
Mhm.
And I think it's time for me to be like, okay, it's done, it's over. Like my friend Cheryl or Coach Cheryl is always like, get over it. It's okay. Move on. It's okay. And it is. It's this program is helping me along with some other things.
That's
So
great.
that's what PTSD feels like, or you know, um, it's not a good feeling. You're just always uneasy, and it's just like walking on eggshells.
Wow. Wow. Well, I thank you for your bravery and transparency because it's resonating with a lot of people. A lot of people have PTSD and aren't even aware.
That's true because I have a lot of friends that are, whether they're in the military or not, like being a domestic violence survivor, you definitely have PTSD. Let's not say that you don't. You do because it's a traumatic event.
Right.
And I think if I would have if I would have dealt with those issues earlier on, I wouldn't be here later on still trying to deal with them. Because it's funny when you put everything in a cup, if you have a cup full of coffee, which we don't have now, let's say tea, right? And it overfills, you can't put it back in the cup. So
Mhm.
once you get there, when you get to a point, it's going to come out. You're going to get the symptoms, and you really need to have, someone to talk to.
Wow. 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 If someone is watching this and they are suffering from PTSD or any form of trauma, what words from a person who's experienced it and who's lived through that, what would you tell them to do?
First, get out of the situation you're currently in. If you're currently in a situation, I don't care if you're a man or a woman or a young adult,
Mhm.
no one deserves that. So you need to get out. There are so many things that people can help you with.
Mhm.
And you know what? Go talk to your friend. If you can't do it on your own, go get your bestie. Like I would go get Cheryl. Like if I could find Cheryl at that time, go get someone and get you out of that situation. Because first of all, if it's a sexual trauma or something like to that effect, domestic violence, n- more people do not ever survive those situations than get out.
Wow.
So you need to get out. For the military service members or anyone else like dealing with military trauma, there's the Veterans Crisis Line and things like that. But you're not alone. You have to know that you're not alone. You might feel like you're in the foxhole, but you're not alone. Get up, find your buddy, and get help. And it's hard, especially as an individual, to say that you need help, right? A lot of us don't like to say we need help. And you have to also reach out to God. You have to pray because He will get you out of the situation. You
Right.
have to ask for it though. And I think that was my prayers, like, God, you got to get me out of here. You got to make me figure out a way to get out of here. And it after you're out, you'll see the sun, you'll
Mhm.
hear the birds chirping, and you will be so much healthier if you get out of those situations.
Wow. Wow. What a great suggestions. Very calming words of encouragement that you've given. Thank you for that, Ms. Heidi. You have been an amazing guest.
You say that about everybody.
All of you guys are amazing. I'm telling you. I'm four for four, Heidi. I mean, you got to give it to me. But let me tell you this. And I'm gonna tell you this. Ever since when I saw you and we started talking, you're the only person in the history of the world who has Wonder Woman eyes. They're striking. You are just beautiful inside and out. I'm
Thank
certain
you.
you get tons of compliments for that. I'm like, my goodness, she looks like Wonder Woman.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for being my guest. You were fantastic. All of the individuals in the chat group are just loving on you big time.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you for being, thank you for accepting and knowing that my account wasn't hacked. That was me. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Heidi Martin. Heidi, once again, thank you for being my guest on
Thanks, Dr. Joe. Have a great day.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Heidi Martin, all the way from Austin, Texas. What a great interviewee she was. What a great story. I could have been sitting there asking questions now. Heidi, thank you for being my and our special guest. I want to take some time to, before I forget, to talk about what Heidi said. And this information I'm about to give you is good information for those of you all who are in the process, as well as those of you all who are watching this who may come through the process, or you may be going on your own journey, because a lot of people don't have context. What happens in the inception of a diet or a new nutritional profile or something to whereby you're trying to lose weight with being intentional about that? What happens is the body, before you are in a caloric deficit, is accustomed to burning sugar mostly. So if you're eating bagels, if you're eating cookies, if you're eating pasta, rice, things of that nature, and you're in a at caloric maintenance or surplus, the body is always accustomed to using that extra fuel as fuel. Okay. So what happens is, as you curtail the calories, or if you are in a caloric deficit, meaning that I'm eating less calories than what I need to maintain my weight, that's what allows us to lose weight. So what happens is, when you're in a caloric deficit, the body does not have the access to all of this free energy. And what happens is, it goes through a training period. Now, the best way for me to make you understand this is, I remember when I was a couple of years old, and my aunt, my mother's sister, taught me how to drink from a straw. I knew how to use my sippy cup. I knew how to grab a glass and drink, but using a straw was a different act for me, for most children. It required some coordination. It required me to kind of understand that it's this particular tube that is accessing this liquid, and I have to perform a certain act in order to bring that liquid through the straw to where I could drink the water. It was a process, and hopefully you guys kind of get what I'm saying. I had to learn how to access water through a different mechanism. So what's happening is, when you're in a caloric deficit, and when Heidi says, I have low energy levels, what's happening is, your body, the metabolism switch is flipping. And if you just hold on and press through, and don't give up. Whenever you get to that point, it doesn't matter what diet you're on. When you're in a caloric deficit, you'll hit those lows. Some people hit them a little earlier than others. Some people confuse the low with caffeine withdrawal, but being that we're in week 4, that's what she's experiencing. She's already 20 pounds down. So what's happening with Heidi, and what's happening with many of you, is if you continue the course, your body will continue to become more efficient at burning fat. And you can see this quite easily at the body's ability to fast for longer periods of time. Now, let me bring up something that a lot of people talk about, but they know little of, and that is a hot topic called intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is not necessarily a diet. Intermittent fasting is a certain way that you're eating your food. You're taking your windows of time to where you say, okay, I'm eating between 12 p.m. and I'm eating between 8 p.m. Well, what happens if a lot of people don't understand what I'm trying to share with you, they'll get into it and they can't make it. And what'll happen is you'll notice, if you notice people who miss meals, their blood sugar will drop. These are individuals who lack metabolic flexibility. They're so accustomed to being sugar burners that when the sugar is purged from their body, they become weak, they become lethargic, they need something. But see, what happens is when you train yourself in this way, and the way you train yourself is you can do it through fasting, you can do it through caloric deficit, as you guys are. So what's happening with Heidi is her body, the metabolism is switching, is doing what it's supposed to. And when she had that resurgence of energy, what's happening is as the body begins to tap into fat stores, you become super focused. Your energy becomes more balanced. You're like bouncing off the walls. And if you can get to that point, that's when you establish what I call metabolic momentum. And I wrote about this in the book that we're giving away on the site. So that's something I want you all to understand. Some of you all have already come out of that. People who have eaten Atkins, they call it the ketogenic. They call it the keto flu. It's the same way the metabolism is being primed and is being taught how to access energy through different mechanisms, but you got to train it in that way. So that's what's happening. That's what's going on. So I wanted you all to know that. That's number one. The second thing that I want you all to know is as it relates to our Blueprint for Wellness here in Atlanta, the event on April the 15th, which ironically is the final weigh-in day for us. All the seats are filled. I think we got like 135 people. So we're filled slots that have already been taken. So we're not going to have those huge crowds like we did last time. That's why they had to condense them from how many of you all came to the 135. So we're doing well with that. We've got a great week this week. Saturday's class is going to be a brand new, all new master class. And the master class is going to be completely designed to set you up for success post-process. Whether you are trying to lose more weight, whether you're trying to maintain your weight, it does not matter. We're taking all things and we're putting it together. Like I told you in this morning's message, this particular presentation on Saturday is going to be an assignment. Now, if you don't complete the assignment, you will still graduate because we did not tell you that in the inception of this process. And we don't like to deviate from, I don't like to change things like that. But it's all going to be on you. Now, if I'm you, whatever assignment that I give, if I'm you, I'm going to do it. Because this assignment that I'm going to give you is literally more than a generation of trial and error that I've had to learn on my own, as well as what I've had to learn in watching other people. I'm going to take all of it and we're going to put it in one document. I'm going to explain the document, what you are to do, and then let you know what you are to do with it once that's done. I've never done this before. This is an all new masterclass. We're excited about that. I did a State of the Village address yesterday where I shared with you all the vision of the Journey Life Foundation with the 40-day turn up. I shared with you the opportunity that we have on the table. I'm going to address that in more detail in the morning, and I'm going to let you know exactly what's going on with that and what we're going to do. But I want to do it in a private setting, being that this is a public platform. But just anticipate that. So in the morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be providing the weekly review and performance analysis to let you know how we performed this week, to see where we are. Gang, we've got some great things. The season finale of Village Chat is coming up, and you're going to know about that very, very soon. I love you guys. Thank you for joining us. Shout out to each of you. Shout out to our new guests who are with us. If you are a new person, if you are a new visitor of our page, let us know in the comment section whether you're watching this live or later. 538 of you watching. Another shout out to my amazing guest, Miss Heidi Martin. She was a great interviewee. Thank you, Heidi, for being my guest. You all have a blessed evening. Happy Palm Sunday. Happy Holy Week. And may God's blessings be upon you, yours, and your family. Love you guys. And we'll see you in the morning. Peace and blessings.